Okay, I'm Rachel Osland and with Lodestar Inspection Services, and with me today is my business partner and financial mentor and guru, Neil Roseman. He owns Lead Probe, and so if you've done lead paint inspections, you've probably heard of him in the DMV area. And he also has so that's Lead Probe, and then Block M Investments, where he does hard money lending, both of which he's been doing for 18 years. And so a great partner for home inspectors and great partner for realtors. So without further ado, I'm going to have Neil take off with speaking. If you have questions, feel free to just unmute yourself. Neil will be watching for you to unmute yourself. Raise your hand, your digital hand, your physical hand, whatever works for you. I'll be watching, and you could also put it in the chat if you can't talk because you're on your way somewhere or you're at work somewhere else. Okay, so here we go. Mike, we're glad you're here. Neil, take it away.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. My name is Neil Roseman, and as Rachel said, I own Lead Probe, and I'm a partner with her in Lodestar, and I also own Block M Investments, and we've been lending money since 2006. At any given point, we have about 200 loans out there. We lend in the 15 to 18 million dollar range in terms of total portfolio size, just so you know. And we not only specialize, we only do Maryland and DC. Okay. And so I want to just kind of give you a little bit of background on hard money. Does anybody know why we call it hard money? And because we break your kneecaps if you don't pay is not the right answer, just in case you're wondering. Anybody got an idea why it's called hard money? So it's called hard money because we lend on the hard asset. So as a hard money lender, I don't personally care too much about your credit score or your income. All I care about, and I don't want to say all I care about, but what I care most about is lending to a certain loan to value, that we'll talk about a little bit later, so that if I have to foreclose, I can get the money back. Does that make sense? Okay. So a normal hard money lender is going to lend out in the counties. I'll talk a little bit about Baltimore City in a minute, but out in the counties is going to lend at about 70% of the after repair value. Now that can go up and down a little bit for different lenders, obviously. Okay. So let's talk about what the 70% after repair value means. What that means is if you have a house that's going to be worth $300,000, when you're done, you're going to sell it for $300,000. A hard money lender is going to lend you $210,000. But that $210,000 also includes the rehab budget. So if there's a $100,000 rehab budget, we're going to lend you $110,000. The most we're going to lend you is $110,000 on the purchase price, and then $100,000 for the rehab budget. So the total is $210,000, which is 70% of $300,000. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now there's all different hard money lenders. Some might go to 73, 75% in certain situations. Some might go a lot lower. I lend a lot lower in Baltimore City. Okay. In the more hood areas and the rougher areas of Baltimore City, but that is a good rule of thumb. Okay. So when you're thinking about your deal, that 70% then, so does that mean your deal has to be in that range? No. It means two things though. It means if you need to borrow $220,000 instead of $210,000, it does mean you're going to bring $10,000 to the table. Okay. So a lot of people like to do deals with no money down, 100% purchase financing, 100% rehab financing. So in order to do that, you'll have to be at that 70% loan to value, give or take. There are ways around that. Okay. The ways around it might be if you have additional collateral. I just approved a loan yesterday, for example, that they wanted me to fund the purchase. Normally I would have that person put $20,000 down because of how much she wanted me to borrow, but she also gave me another free and clear property as collateral. So I lent her $30,000 total, more than I normally would have. So she's actually going to sign her name and buy the property. Okay. As opposed to even when a hard money lender is going to fund you 100%, they're not going to fund you for the closing costs and points as a rule of thumb. Okay. So even 100% means you still have to come to the table with those expenses. Now, given that you guys are all, most of you are all real, if not all of you are all realtors, I know you understand what closing costs and points are, unlike some of my other clients who think they can just do it with just signing their name. Okay. So when you borrow hard money, you need to have the number one thing, and I can't emphasize this enough, the number one thing that you need when you borrow lend hard money is you need working capital. The number one way that a hard money lender loses money is by you running out of money. Okay, construction loans are the most difficult types of loans. Difficult is the wrong word. Risky loans that almost a lender can make, because it doesn't take much for you to get stopped in the rehab process because you ran out of money, or your cash flow isn't working correctly. Like maybe you haven't like technically run out of money, but you've given all the money to your contractor, for example. Okay, and now you've run out of money. So when you borrow hard money, and Tanika, I'll answer your question in just a second. Let me finish this point here. When you borrow hard money, you have to have working capital. Another way to look at this is when a hard money lender is lending you money, they are lending you like money to your business called rehabbing. Okay, and you've got to have the appropriate money. So how much money do you need? Well, that varies dramatically depending on the size of the deal. But here are the things that you need to consider. You will, as a rule of thumb, you're going to need money for closing costs and points. So you guys know you guys are pretty good at calculating closing costs, but don't forget you have to add the points in there. Okay. So if you're doing a flip loan, my price is and we'll go more into pricing later, but my price is 13.9% and 3.9 points. So that means if you're doing a $300,000 loan, you got to add about almost $12,000, for 3.9 points, which is almost 4 times the purchase price. So a point, as you probably know, but some of you might not, is like 1% of the loan. That is the cost. That is like the fee to do all the upfront work for the loan. Okay. So when you try to calculate your working capital that you need, you're going to need money for the closing costs on the points. You're going to need money to front the construction draws. So a hard money lender is almost always going to pay you in the rear for the work based on the work that you completed. Okay. So as a rule of thumb, you're going to create a draw schedule. Okay. For like, if the rehab budget is $100,000, you're going to create a draw schedule that'll say, electrical roughing, 6,000, framing, 10,000, roof, 5,000, demo, 6,000, vanities, 3,000, tile, 2,000, like that. Okay. You'll create like, a 50-line, 30-line entry of different items that you're going to be doing on the rehab. And you're going to have to front the money for that. So not only do you possibly have to front the money to your contractor, possibly, okay, you're also going to have to front the money when you order custom-made things. If you want to, you might order cabinets and have to pay them in advance, but a hard money lender is not going to reimburse you until the cabinets are in. Okay, so it's very possible you could go like 6-8 weeks with your money being out there and not have access to it. Same with your contractors might require some money up front. You might have to pay for windows up front, ordering special doors, that kind of thing. You're also going to have to make payments to me. So you are going to make interest-only payments. Almost every hard money lender is going to require payments to be made. They're not going to be rolled into the loan 99% of the time. So you have to count on making payments. So if you are doing a $200,000 loan for a $300,000 after repair value at 13.9% divided by 12, that's going to come out to $2,300 and change per month. So if you're going to have the loan for 6 to 8 months, you can kind of get to see that's another 12 to 16,000 that you're going to need for your working capital. Along with that, you're going to need to handle any cost overruns. Okay, I can almost assure you, you will run over budget. I've funded over maybe 2,500, 3,000 loans, and I can assure you that 95% of them went over budget. Okay, especially your first ones, as you don't know what you're doing, and you're walking through the process. So you're going to have enough money, cash, to get through all that and to get approved for the loans. The number one question I'm going to ask you, besides the value of the property, is how much cash do you have? Okay. If I don't think you have enough cash to get you through the deal, I'm not going to approve the loan, or you'll have to bring some additional collateral or another partner, to the table, or a cash partner, that kind of a thing. So just to give you like a rough idea, is if you're doing a $200,000 loan, that I'm going to I'm going to fund 100%, because if I only fund it, if I think it's not worth as much as you think it's worth, I'm only going to fund 90% of it. You have to bring, say 10, 15 grand down. That's going to be an addition. So a nice number for a $200,000 loan would be about $40,000 to $55,000 of cash you're going to need. Doesn't mean that cash is going to all go into the deal, but you have to have that working capital. Okay. And if the loan amount is lower, it might be less. If the loan is higher, it can be higher. Okay. That'll give you a sense of the type of cash you're going to need. So it's not uncommon for me on a daily or weekly basis to get a call from somebody, and I ask how much cash they have, and they're like $4,000. That's just not going to cut it. Okay. You can't even close on the property at $4,000, right? So you've got to make sure that you're like ready to go and have the amount of cash that you need. If you don't have the cash, it's not the end of the world. Okay. There are ways to get the cash. Okay. You can find a money partner. You can find another partner. You can borrow from friends and relatives, possibly. You can also, keep working until you get the cash. A lot of people come to me are not real estate agents like yourselves. So they might start wholesaling. Does everybody know what wholesaling is? Anybody not know what? Raise your hand if you don't know what wholesaling is. Okay, so you might, sell, and I know there's a lot of issues with realtors doing wholesale deals, but that's an easy way to get cash, where you just kind of make 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 grand per deal as you find a good deal, but you can't maybe close on it. So you just wholesale, you add a fee to it and sell it to another investor. Okay, so let me answer Tanika's questions. What areas in Baltimore would you lend at a higher amount versus the lower amount? So it's a complicated question, Tanika, and I can, if you call me when we're done, I can if you have a specific question about area, I can tell you. As a rule of thumb, the more rental area, the more I'm going to lend less as a ARV. Okay. I'm personally not scared. So I'm personally not scared of the city. Okay. I own a lead paint inspection company. We do over 5,000 lead paint inspections a week. A year, about 300, or over 300 a week. So I'm not scared of the hood, but it is riskier for me because it's the same cost for me to foreclose on a $40,000 property as it is on a $200,000 property. So it might cost me, let's just say it cost me about $10,000 to foreclose. On 40,000, that's almost 25% of the price of the loan. While on 200,000, it's only 5%. Okay, so I take that kind of stuff into consideration. My personal opinion, and this is not what most London lenders believe. My personal opinion is that there's no such thing as a bad asset, only a bad price. Okay, so I kind of lend on almost anything, and it's just a matter of how much am I going to lend. Okay, so what you are going to find is that a lot of lenders will not lend in the city, and they will do that for a couple reasons. One, it's a lot riskier to lend in the city, and two, they don't want to lend less than 100,000 or less than 75,000. Okay. Or maybe it's a 125 or 150. It could be any, whatever. Each lender has their own minimum. My minimum is 16,000. Okay. I love the city. That's where all my clients are from the other businesses, and I'm going to lend there. The other reason, does anybody know can anybody tell me why other lenders don't want to lend less than 100,000? I see Lynn trying to talk. You want to say something, Lynn? You're on mute if you are.
I was just thinking make their profit.
Yeah. So, but the reason they don't want the reason that makes them different than me, for example, is I lend my own money. Okay. So to me, I don't, yeah, it's to lend money for a $30,000-$40,000 loan is the exact, I'm not kidding when I say this, it's the exact same amount of work for me than to lend on a $400,000 loan. So if I'm doing a $400,000 loan or a $40,000, it's 10 times the work to put 400,000 together at $40,000 loans. So what most lenders, most of my competitors are funded through either investors or private equity or other ways of lending, and it's just not worth it to them because they might be charging 3 points, and as a rule of thumb, they get the points, and the investor, whoever's lending them the money to lend to you, they're getting most of the interest. So if you're talking about a $30,000-$40,000 loan and you're talking about 3 points, it's not even worth it for them, especially if they're hiring employees to do that. For me, it's worth it for me because I'm the only one kind of involved for me in lending the money. So one of the big things for you as you are going to go into the rehab or hard money or to borrow hard money is you need to find a lender that fits what you're trying to do. Okay. And a lot of them we all have our own expertise. Like my expertise is lower priced properties. I lend up to maybe 400, 500,000 total, per property. But most of my loans are in that, 80 to 200 range, with a lot of them in, 40, 50, 60, 70, which most other people won't touch. Okay. So you'll want to kind of look at all that. Do you need to mortgage your own personal credit? No. So, okay. So here's the thing about, so the question is, what are the requirements to personally qualify for a hard money loan? For example, do you need to have a mortgage on your own personal credit report to qualify? The answer is, a rule of thumb to your question, is no, you don't need a mortgage. Okay. Different hard money lenders have different criteria. Okay. And a lot of it depends on where their financing is coming from. Okay. So if a bank is financing a hard money lender, you're going to have to fill out 800 different forms, a full 1031, etc. The upside to that, though, is you might get a cheaper rate. Okay. So right now there's a bifurcation in the market. And when I mean a bifurcation, what I mean is there are people that will lend much lower than me. They'll lend at 10 and 2, 10 and 1, 11 and 1. Okay. However, they're gonna have stricter credit standards, and they're going to require a money down deposit. Like they might want 10, 20, 15, 25% down. Okay, so if you're buying a house for 100 grand, you're going to put 100 into it, a rehab, they're going to want $10,000, $15,000 down, no matter what. I will do a no money down deal if the deal is good enough. Probably 40 to 60% of my deals are no money down, but I charge more. Okay, so I'm charging 13.9% and 3.9 points. I'm probably at the higher end of the scale. Okay, so it's important that you kind of find a fit. So some people might use me in the beginning as like your first hard money lender. I'm I'm the kind of guy to come to on your first deal, because I'm going to be the most flexible. I'm charging the most, but I'm also going to be the most flexible. After a while, you might find another after 2 or 3 or 4 deals, you might go up the food chain to a different hard money lender who is going to charge less, but you will qualify for them based on how much cash you have and how much experience you have. Okay. With regards to FICO scores, most hard money lenders do have a minimum FICO score, whether it be 620, 680, 700, whatever it is. A lot of them alter their pricing based on your credit score. So the lower your credit score, the higher the price you pay. Okay. I don't personally do that. So if you have bad credit, I just lent to somebody with the lowest credit I've ever seen in my life. He had a 450 credit score. Okay, 400. I didn't I've never seen one that low. I've seen a couple in the 480, 495 range. And I decided to lend him money because the property was worth 100 grand and I only had to lend him 20,000. Okay, so as your credit score goes lower, I might still do the deal with you. Okay, but I might lend less, which means you're going to need more cash. Okay, so you can have bad credit. You might even be able to have less cash. You can't have both. Does that make sense? Okay, because one can offset the other. So the number one thing, to answer your question, Tanika, the number one thing that is going to be required to get the loan is the loan at 70% of the loan to value. Okay, number one. Number two is, do you have enough cash to get through the deal? Those are the two things that usually become non-starters. If you don't have enough cash and the deal is not good enough, you're not going to get it funded. Okay. Now, so yeah, let me just say that. Let me go on. And then, so could available credit be considered as capital if the person doesn't have access to cash? Yes and no. Okay. So the answer is yes, it can be considered as capital if you have available lines of credit or money on your credit card. However, if your plan is to refinance it out and make it a long-term rental, then if you're going to borrow all this money off your credit line, your credit score is going to drop precipitously. A lot, hundreds of points. If you have $50,000 on your credit, okay, your credit cards, and you have $30,000 line of credit, a HELOC on your house, and you kind of tap into all that, it wouldn't be uncommon to see your credit score drop at least 150 points when you max out your credit. So that is a factor, number one. Number two is, I think I'll say for myself, I want to see a certain amount of cash. So if you say, Neil, I've got $20,000 cash and I might want you to have 35 and you've got $30,000 of credit, I marry the two and we're okay. I don't like funding deals where people have zero cash. Okay. Okay. Let's see, where should I go now? Okay, so we talked about, we talked about the number one thing is here, there's an old saying, and this is really, really, really important. It's critical what I'm about to say, and I don't want you to relate to it like it's 100% the truth, but it's about 97% the truth. Okay. If a hard money lender won't fund your deal without you putting money down, it's probably not a good enough deal. Okay. Meaning one of the checks and balances that you get from using a hard money lender is we keep you on the straight and narrow. Meaning we're saying, look, this house is only worth 300 grand. I know you think it's going to be worth 375. We only think it's worth 300. If a hard money lender says that to you, you need to stop what you're doing and reassess everything, because what you find, especially with first-time investors, is they get caught up in the emotion of the deal. Okay. And they think it's worth it. And they got an appraisal to support them maybe, or they've got other, here's my answer to all that. If your appraiser is so confident it's worth what the appraiser says it's worth, and let him or her fund your deal. Okay. I am the only person Okay. And I being the hard money lender. Well, here's the other thing that's a big deal. And I'm going to say this, I know I'm going to probably upset some of you, but real estate agents are a huge problem for deals, because the real estate agents, if the hard money borrower is using an agent, the real estate agent is trying to get the deal done. And they're saying the after repair value is 375. I'm saying it's only 325. I'm not saying that I know I'm right, but what I tell the client is, look, the real estate agent is going to get their money and they're going to go away. You and me, being the hard money lender and the borrower, we have this long-term relationship. We're partners in effect. I know technically I'm a lender, but if you go under, it's not good for me either. I have a lot more work. I have to foreclose. I might have to take a loss. So you should listen to your hard money lender, because they're the only ones that are in it with you, if that makes any sense. Everybody else is designed to make money off the transaction, the title company, the real estate agents, the seller, all that. So I'd be very careful to lender actually tells you. Now, it doesn't mean the hard money lenders are right. I've been wrong many times. Okay. Or I say the property is worth 325. They say it's worth 375. It ends up selling for 375. Okay. But at least I think that we are the most honest, is not the right word. Our incentives are aligned with you the most, because we're in this deal together. Okay. And we're the only ones putting money up, and you're the only ones putting money up. Everybody else is getting paid. Okay. I want to talk about the financing curve for hard money. So before we do that, I get a lot of questions from non-real estate investors, like, why, even from real estate investors, why the hell would I use hard money and pay those rates? Okay. Like, those rates are absurdly high. And here is the answer, okay, that you really need to understand. The answer is, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say there's a condo, and the condo is going to sell for $300,000, and you can get it. I'm just going to make up numbers. You can get it for 180, and you're going to put $50,000 into it to make it worth 300. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Now, and that probably doesn't make the 70% rule work, but I'm just throwing numbers out at you. If you go to a bank and try to get a loan, the bank officer is probably going to make you feel good about you getting a loan. It's going to fill out an application, say you have a good chance. Then what happens is it goes to some kind of committee, and all of a sudden, very possibly at the end, when you're supposed to, a week from closing, all of a sudden they change their terms. They renege on what they told you. The committee decides not to not to fund it. The person you're talking to is never the decision maker. Okay. So in your mind, you had a $70,000 profit, like, locked in. Can you get that? It's not really 70, because you have all these other expenses that we'll talk about later, but you have a $70,000 profit locked in. So for you to lose that is almost like for you to lose that deal is like you losing $70,000. You will gladly pay me 5,000 to 7,000 in points and a higher interest rate to ensure you make that money. It's just a cost of doing business, like paying for sheetrock, paying for electrical, paying for tile, like that. Okay. So I'm known for my speed. Okay. And I'll tell you why. I'm not the cheapest guy in the world. So every hard money lender has their ups and their downs. Okay. Their pros and their cons. But if you call me today, we're going to talk through your deal today. Okay. If it looks like it's a doable deal, I'll meet out there tomorrow, and you'll have a commitment letter tomorrow evening. Okay. And at that point, you're funded. I mean, it's a commitment letter for me. I mean, I've never reneged on a commitment letter before. Okay. So you can actually get a commitment in 24 hours that that my handshake and my commitment is a bond. Okay. That's what you're paying with hard money lenders. Okay. You will fill out a 1-page application that will take you 30 seconds with me. Some other people might have more in-depth applications, and you'll send me a copy of your credit report. That's it. Once I've seen the property, I've seen that, and I've asked you whatever questions I've asked you, I'm ready to issue the commitment letter, and then I'm ready to fund the deal once the commitment letter is issued. So you are paying for that speed. You are paying for that service. You are paying that if Neil says he's going to fund the deal, it's going to get funded. Does that all make sense? And you're paying a price for that, which is the higher rates. Now, you might say, well, God, I'm gonna go borrow somewhere else. Well, my question for you is going to be, where are you going to borrow from? Because you can't borrow from a bank. Banks will not lend money to people like you doing first deals, okay, on construction projects. They might, after you've done 10 deals and you get $1 million line of credit, which means you probably have $1 million of assets also. So there is a way to get bank financing way down the road, but currently no banks are going to finance construction deals. Why? Because they can't fit into Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA. They have to hold them on their balance sheet. Okay, so the bank is going to make a loan to your business, and unless you have all this tax return, hundreds of pages of tax returns and all that, you won't get the loan. Okay, not the experience, all that stuff. Almost nobody I deal with is able to borrow from a bank. So where are you left with? Okay, well, there is people that are more expensive than a hard money lender. What's more expensive than a hard money lender? Anybody know? The mafia key. So, okay, that's the first time I've asked that question where somebody's responded with the mafia. And you are correct. I would assume the mafia, based on the television shows I watch, are way more expensive. I'm charging 13% a year. They're charging 13% a week, I think. But on the financing curve, there is something that's more expensive than a hard money lender. Anybody else care to take a stab at it? It's pretty obvious, but it's having a partner. Okay, so lots of times new people will partner up with somebody where somebody does the work, somebody else puts in the money, and they split the profits 50-50. Well, if you're splitting the profits 50-50, you're giving away 50% of the profits, right? With a hard money lender, you're giving me 4% of the loan up front, 3.9 points, plus you're giving me 13.9% interest. If you play your cards right, I'm kind of getting 20% of the profits up front, meaning I get paid first, then you get 80% on the back end. If you play your cards right, that works out really well. So a lot of people think how expensive hard money lenders are, and we're not cheap. I'm not trying to tell you we're cheap. It's just that there are things that are more expensive. So when you go up the curve, what I call the financing curve, you start with partners, okay, or maybe you start the mafia. I have not put that in my financing curve. Okay, you start with the mafia, then you go to partners, then you would go to hard money lenders. After hard money lenders, you'd have private lenders. Okay, so what's the difference between a hard money lender and a private lender? A lot of people will define it differently, but as a rule of thumb, a hard money lender is somebody that does it as a business. So if Lynn or Gwen or Mike or V or Wendy were clients of mine, I am going to do everything I can to make sure I have money available when you need it. Okay. And I don't take that. We're not banks. We don't have unlimited money. Many times in my career, I've run out of money and I've had to say no to people to fund new loans. Okay. But every time I say no to people, I lose clients. So if Lynn comes to me and we've already done 3 loans, I might, if Tanika is a new client, I might have no problem saying no to Tanika, right? But if Lynn has done 3 loans with me, the last thing I want to do is say no to Lynn, because then you'll find another lender to fund the deal, and I risk losing all your business to the other lender, right? So it's my job to ensure that I've got the money available to do that. So I will go out, I will borrow money. I have multi-million-dollar lines of credit. I have other lines of credit with other people that will give me money. I can raise money. I raise a fair amount of money now. So I kind of manage my portfolio to make sure that I take care of my clients. A private lender so another way to say this is a hard money lender operates it as a business. Okay. And a private lender is more of think of a doctor, a lawyer, a friend, a relative, somebody who has money and just looking for a way to invest it. as a way to get an increased return. Okay. It's not, so I borrow money from people from private money. I borrow money at 8% personally. Okay. So like if Kay wanted to lend me money, or she wanted to invest money in my company, I would just give her an 8% return. Okay. And then I lend it at 13.9%, 3.9 points, and I make money on the spread. Okay. Well, once you're done using hard money, or once you've had enough of it, or you've done a few of them, you might be able to move into borrowing private money. Private money is the cat's meow for you guys. Okay. It is where you probably want to be. Most people don't aspire to borrow from banks. It's too complicated. It's too much of a pain in the butt. There's too many rules when they send you the loan docs. But if you could borrow at 8% and no points, for example, and it might take you many, many years to borrow at 8%, but you could probably easily borrow money at 10 to 12% right now. You borrow money at 10 to 12% with no points, which saves you a ton of money right there. Maybe no fees, like no appraisal fee, like I'm going to charge you to come out and kind of approve the loan. I'm going to charge you a draw fee, $95 every time I come out and do a draw for you. Okay. Usually a private lender doesn't do that, or you might find a private lender to give you all the rehab money up front. They're idiots and fools to do that, but it's not uncommon in the private money world for them to do that because they trust you. They know you. It might be your family, could be friends, or they're just ignorant in how this business works. Okay. So you can get much better terms by using a private lender, not only better financial terms, but not have people say, I want you to put $10,000. Like, it's a hard money lender. I might say, I don't agree with your ARV. I want you to put $10,000 down. A private lender might just give you the full amount because they're just trusting you. Okay. So most people aspire to move out of the hard money world into the private money world. And as you do business, you can start to create those connections. Then on top of the private money, so if you think of the financing curve, you've got mafia, partners, hard money lenders, private money. Then you might have banks, which will be your next cheapest route. Okay. Then after banks, you might have HELOCs. So a lot of people I use HELOCs. I've paid off my house years ago, but I have a large HELOC on my house, and I use that to help fund loans if I end up in a bind where I'm a little bit short on cash. Okay, so having a HELOC would be great because it's the cheapest money you can borrow, and it's only going to be used during the time you use it. And the minute you're done using it, you pay it off. You don't have to pay interest anymore, and there's no fees. And then the one after that would be cash. So the real cat's meow at some point would be you using all your cash to fund the deals. Then you don't have to worry about anything, which is awesome. You're your own boss with nobody telling you what to do or how to do it, etc. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm just gonna give you a second to raise your hand or put a question in the chat. Has anybody texted you questions, Rachel, behind the scenes they want to ask?
No, and I was just checking the email that I sent out to see what questions might be there that we hadn't covered.
Yeah,
Kay's
got her hand up. Go ahead, Kay.
Hi. I actually, given what you said about how you can get down the road, of course, and have your financing fall through if you're not using hard money lender, bank versus hard money lender. I actually have heard of a couple deals that the financing from the hard money lender has fallen through. What would be something that would trigger that? In that particular instance that I heard, I'm trying to remember, it's been a little while. That maybe they didn't reveal, they said that it was going to be a cash deal. Actually, it was a hard money lender behind the deal. Something fell through, whatever.
So I think what you're describing, if I understand correctly, because I've seen this happen many times, is hard money is not cash. And that
Yeah,
this really,
and so that would have been a wrong statement by a realtor anyway, or by a buyer.
but that does
Yeah.
happen all the time. Is
Uh.
that remember, lots of times hard money people are not realtors and they're not doing things with realtors. So they put something on a contract, they think that hard money is cash, and all of a sudden the seller, which is usually a bank in those situations that has a problem, or an REO type of situation, will say that well, that wasn't the contract, so you can't even use hard money. It's kind of stupid because they, I'm like, I'm ready to fund. Like, I am ready to fund. Like, you just tell me when and I will wire the money tomorrow. But they follow these rules that they have, because a lot of people use the financing to get out of the deals, which is why they don't accept the deals to begin with. So that's really not a hard money lender pulling the deal. It's the seller, or a discrepancy in the contract, right? I'm sure. So here's what I will tell you. I'm sure, Kay, that there are many deals that have been not that have where the hard money lender has pulled the rug from under people. Okay, I've heard of them. People come to me and say, I'm not using this guy anymore because this happened. Usually that happens for a couple different reasons. A hard money lender, so it could be just incompetence, okay, number one. But number two, a hard money lender, most hard money lenders, I'm kind of the exception, use other people to fund their deals. So when there's market turmoil, a lot of times those investors pull their money. And that money might have always been flowing, where the hard money lender just goes to their investor that has $100 million and say, I need to fund this loan. They say, okay. And they said, okay, for 3 years straight. And all of a sudden they don't say, okay anymore. Think a pandemic, for example. Think interest rates spiking so hard back when they first started raising rates. Everybody thought that it was going to kill the housing market, right? Ended up not doing that, but we all thought it would. So here's what I would share with you. This is where you've got to understand who you're doing business with. There's lots of local people like myself that we lend our own money. We've been around for a long time. We live in Maryland. We live in the Baltimore area, etc. Okay. I am never gonna pull. I've funded over 2,000 to 3,000 loans. I've never not come through on a loan. There are people that run large companies that are nationwide, where you're dealing with salespeople, and they're almost like large banks. They're like much better than banks, but they operate kind of like banks, where they might have committees or somebody way above. They might be cheaper. They're not going to be as fast, and they might not honor their bond the way that the local people will. So I think Kay, you just have to find the right person and make sure that you can trust that they're going to fund the deal once they say they're going to fund it. Sheila, go ahead.
Yeah, I put it in the chat as well. Thank you for your presentation today, and thank you, Rachel, for having Neil. If you lend money and the money is paid back to you, are you finished with the deal, even though the project may not be complete?
Yeah, I mean, look, as long as you've paid me off, I'm happier than a pig, and you know what, right? Like that's the catch me out right there. Whether you finish it, make money, lose money, I want you to win. But from my perspective, it's paid off and you've fulfilled your obligation.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, Rachel, were you going to ask another question before I move on to a few other things?
Well, I was going to ask if there's a and you can move on to other things, but I was just wondering about how people find other hard money lenders. If they want to, because it really is a personal situation about who your hard money lender is, because everybody is so different.
Yep. So
and everybody's
I think if you just ask other people that have done rehabs, they're going to refer you people they've done that they've borrowed from in the past. They're almost all hard money lenders, even local guys like myself, have websites, so you can do it that way. The problem is you're going to get every other type of lender known to mankind, and most of the people that have the really good presence on the web are not the ones you probably want to use. And not that there's anything wrong with them, not that they're scam artists or anything, but more like they're big, they're like, I don't advertise. This is my advertising right here, right? Like I'm like, I don't spend money on the web. I have a website that costs me $50 a month or whatever. But people just come to me. like that. You can also go to the auction sites, whether it be Ashland Auction, Cooper, or I'm just brain farting on the other big one in Baltimore area. And they lots of times they have local hard money lenders on their, like resources page. I get a nice amount of business from that. So I would just ask people and get a sense of it. So let's talk about some of the big mistakes that people make when they borrow hard money. Small to more. Yeah, that's good. That's good, Rachel. So the biggest mistake you can make is not having enough cash. I cannot emphasize that enough. Cannot emphasize that enough. Number two is the relationship and the structure that you have with your contractor. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how to do it because everybody has their own way. But anytime you find yourself putting $20,000, $30,000 up front on a $100,000 rehab, that should be a red flag to you. Now, there are construction companies out there that are very high end, that's never usually an issue, but those are always the most expensive ones. They're gonna have they're more of the retail ones. You're gonna have to remodel your own house or put an addition on your own house. But I would just be very careful in Baltimore of putting money up front. Okay, more than a few $1,000s to get them started. The second thing that will run into problems for you is inspections. Okay, so it is like you're going to sign a whole bunch of paperwork with me that says you're going to use not licensed contractors. I don't really care about that as much, but you're going to get the inspections done, the rough-in inspections, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, get the finals. So one of the big problems you can run into, and where people end up losing their shirts, is you pay the contractor. They do the rough-in, like electrical, and maybe it's $15,000, and then all of a sudden they did it all wrong. You've already paid them, and the inspector doesn't sign off, and you've got to like redo it, and you don't have the money now to redo it. Okay, because when I fund deals that are from auctions and the property is like half done, it's always a huge red flag for me, because when a project is half done and it's being auctioned, to me that says something went wrong. I want to figure out what went wrong, and usually has something to do with the inspections. So to me, if I were you, I would not be paying inspectors. I would not be paying contractors for the work that's completed until they show you that's been inspected by the city or the county and you've passed that inspection. That's the number one thing. The second thing that I think people make a mistake on rehabbing, I'm going to say something that's a little bit controversial. So rehabbing is a business. It's not an investment. If you say you're a real estate investor and you rehab houses, I'm like, no, you're not. What are you investing in? You just bought yourself a business. You're buying, rehabbing, and selling homes. Okay. So one is, you're not an investor. And why do I make that point? I make that point is because you are competing against all the other rehabbers out there. You have a business. It's like, so what sets you apart? What's your competitive advantage? So I'm talking to probably all real estate agents here, and that is a competitive advantage, right? You can sell your own rehab and save 2.5%. That's not chump change. You can buy your own, you can save money, okay? And other people have other advantages, okay? So you might also have the advantage that you understand the market inside and out in that particular neighborhood because you've been selling houses there for 10 years. Okay, well, a rehabber doesn't quite understand the market, but the rehabber might be an immigrant who is great at rehabbing and just does the rehabbing at like almost below cost, and they can do the rehab $40,000 less than you can because you're hiring full-blown licensed contractors at a profit. A lot of my clients are contractors that do rehabbing on the side to keep their guys busy. Okay, so they've got a competitive advantage over you. You've got competitive advantages over them also. But one of the things that's very difficult in your business, and when I think about the rehab business, I just roll my eyes at this, is that it is so complicated. Okay. And there's so many facets to it, I mean, the rehabbing might even be the easy part, but it's the rehabbing, the design of the rehab. Where's the kitchen going to go? What colors and what types of cabinet, what's going to sell and what's going to get you the best price. So a lot of the contractors are terrible at that. Okay. But my point is you have to be skilled in so many different aspects of the business. And the hardest one is finding the property. Okay. I have clients that are awesome at finding the properties because they have like built these mailing lists and they go after people that have died in their estates and try to buy them from the estates and go to the auctions and get them that way. They might make and I know you guys have heard about these people that spend 100, that they write 100 offers through the real estate agent to get one, which is not what you guys want to be doing if you're the agent working for them. Right? Like, I mean, I see the frustration when I get calls from the agents that are doing that, but that's one way to do it, that you just write 100 offers a week and you hope that only one hits or one a month hits. That's all you need, really. Right. So getting the properties is so critical, the right price property, designing the rehab, doing the rehab, having the cash and all the finances behind you and the hard money lender or whoever you're going to use, and then being able to sell it, stage it correctly, position it, market it. Like I consider myself like an expert in lending money because it's so simple and I've done it so many times. I don't know how I'd ever consider myself an expert in rehabbing. It's so difficult. You have to be trained and skilled in so many different things, in the part of the process that are all not complementary, if that makes sense. Just because you're a great design of how you're going to set up doesn't mean you're good at getting properties under contract that are going to make you money. Okay. So some ways to use hard money. I'll never forget where this guy schooled me in my beginning days. In his own way, he called me up and he said, I need to borrow $35,000. I said, okay, tell me, he gave me the address. I said, well, are you going to buy it? He said, no, I already own it. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I already owned it. I've completed most, a lot of the rehab. I just need $35,000 to finish it. And he had stopped. Okay. Like the rehab. And I'm thinking to myself, what an idiot. Like this is a guy that like started a rehab project and knew he didn't have the money to finish it and was going to worry about it when he got to the point where his money ran out. And then I ended up lending him the money. And then I realized he was probably the smartest guy I met. Okay. Because he understood, because the result was I lent him $35,000 and he had the loan for 2 months. Okay. So he paid the least amount of fees to me, which is fine. I'm happy to do that. I get my points. I'm happy. Okay. Versus everybody else that's borrowing money way in the beginning. He just kept going till he ran out of money and then found somebody to finish it. And because he had no loan on the property, that's easy to do when you own the property free and clear. Okay. So lots of really neat ways to use hard money. I have a lot of people that use all cash and all of a sudden they're doing two deals themselves and a third incredible deal shows up, but they don't have enough cash. They just borrow hard money for that third deal. Okay. So hard money can be this like strategic way that you get the money you need in a bind quickly when it really benefits you so that it makes you money and you're not. We're always going to make money as a hard money lender. Okay. So I want to make sure you guys are clear on that. Like you don't have to worry about us, but you want to use us so that you can make money. The worst thing that you can do is go long on a hard money loan because that 13, 12, 13, 14, 15% interest rate will just eat up all your profits. So if you're doing a loan, for example, that's a full gut rehab, that's $120,000, $130,000, includes maybe foundation work, framing, all the way to the outside and landscaping. That's going to take a lot longer than if you just buy a property and that's like out in the county that's built in the 70s or 80s, and you're just doing a $40,000, $50,000 kitchen, paint, bathroom, flooring rehab. First of all, you don't have to pull permits. See, pulling permits really creates and you might technically have to pull permits, but I'm only going to make a big deal out about the permits on HVAC, plumbing, electrical, but you could get all that done yourself in probably 3 weeks. You can do a $50,000, $60,000 rehab in 3 weeks. You can't do a full gut rehab in 3 weeks, no matter how good you are, because the city will screw you up. They'll make you wait a week for your inspection, and you have multiple inspections throughout the process. And then you might fail the inspection. Very often you'll have 1 or 2 things, but then you can't put the sheetrock up until you've passed the rough HVAC, the electrical, and the plumbing roughing. So even though you fixed the one thing he showed, if he makes you wait another week, it's just another week. And if you're paying $2,000 a month in interest, another week just costs you $500. So you going long on the rehab your speed is absolutely critical to making hard money work for you. Okay, good. Any other final questions? Okay, I'm putting my I'm gonna put my my emails and stuff and my phone numbers in the chat for you. And anything else you want me to cover, Rachel?
I think that's it. I think you've addressed all the questions. It's not a good idea. Like, when is hard money not a great idea? When you are playing the long game and you're not going to be able to pay it off quickly.
Well, usually nobody intends to play the long game. It's because they're incompetent that they end up playing the long game. And I mean that, like, it's just like they're rookies, they screw up, they, all this other stuff. So that's what ends up happening.
Got it. Okay.
It's not that they intend to do it that way.
Okay. Any questions, anybody, before we go?
I'll stick around if anybody wants to just ask me one-on-one questions for a few minutes after it ends here.
Mahalo. Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Kay's
Hey,
the
Neil.
Aloha realtor.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yep. She moved here. She's one of 2 agents I know who moved here from Hawaii.
Wow.
Lynn,
Okay.
you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Is there any difference when you're doing flips like in the county versus the examples you were giving in the city?
Differences in terms of what?
I'm assuming all the percentages, the loan to value and your interest rate and the draws are the same. I just wanted to confirm that.
So the interest rates are the same. I might lend less money in the city depending on the neighborhood. Okay, so
I'm
less
thinking county.
than the county. What is going to be different in the city versus the county that you need to understand is that normally they don't steal all your stuff in the county, and they frequently do that in the city. And I'll tell you my favorite story, which almost got recreated in The Wire. If you guys watch The Wire, right?
Yeah.
This guy, he called for a draw schedule. I showed up at his house, and he was beside himself. He was so pissed because somebody had broken in over that night and stole all the windows. So the windows were like, they hadn't been installed yet. They were just sitting there. But that happens all the time, by the way, all the time. But the thing that made this really interesting was the guy that stole the windows was at the corner of the block selling them. So this guy had a choice to buy his windows back from the guy that stole them from him for 50 cents on the dollar, or to go buy new ones again at Home Depot or wherever at 100 cents on the dollar and wait 6 weeks. It was a mental conundrum for him. But that it's not uncommon where I came up to do a draw schedule, and the guy said, "Do you know what? Where my cabinets were in the middle of the street. So somebody tried to steal the cabinets, had gotten halfway down the street and left them in the exact middle of the street. When I got there, the guy had already gotten from the street and put them back into the house." But those things don't seem to happen in the counties. They don't seem to happen in PG County. They don't happen in Annapolis. I'm not saying they can't happen. They just don't. So you have a lot more risk, and I have a lot more risk in the city. When people cut out your copper pipes, and they don't have any
AC.
Yeah, they don't. Let me. They don't. It's like all they have to do is turn off the water, take the copper, and they got their money. But what they'll do is they'll just take the copper, let the water run, and now you've got $100,000 insurance claim because you flooded everything. I go story after story after story. So I think you got to understand that difference for you. There's a lot more risk in the city.
Yeah, I've done the city and I finally sold them. You actually did the inspection on 2 of them. And I
Okay.
sold them and did a 1031 exchange in the county.
Perfect.
So
Yep.
I moved out. Yeah, I'm looking at starting flips. I just hadn't started this year because I was looking at the interest rates and thought they were a little too high and still building up more capital.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, thank you.
I'm never gonna argue with you having more capital.
I know. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
Bye,
being here.
Rachel.
Bye. Good to